next question about when you talk about stability? Because like historically there have been those higher compacts between the governor and the UC, and all, I mean, we also talked about this with regards to like UCRP funding before that, but there's no legal binding contract between the state and the UC. Is there? I mean, with Schwarzenegger's one last time, I mean, he simply stopped funding at the level of the compact.
Exactly.
Is there a legal recourse you can take to ensure that level of funding, or?
No, there's no legal recourse. I mean, actually I taught constitutional law and contracts when I made a respectable living, and no, you can't do that. You know, the lesson I learned from that experience is you don't enter into a compact with the governor. You have to get the leadership of the House and the Senate, Assembly and the Senate, and hopefully the minority leaders in the Senate and the Assembly and the governor enter into a compact. But if you actually mean legally enforceable, like, you know, could we file a lawsuit and get damages? The answer is no. But I think that's what we have to give it a ride. I mean, the rule is that any legislature can undo anything that any prior legislature has done unless they embed it in the Constitution. And so that's where we are. But that's really, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, that's what I'm looking for. But I don't think it's sufficient to do it with the governor. I mean, it has nothing to do with his character or anything. I just think if you're going to have a compact, you need partners who can deliver the goods. And the Assembly and the Senate, they're in charge of taxation and they're in charge of budgets and all the rest. We've got to have them all in on the deal.
But, and Jordan, one thing to add is you really highlighted one of the weaknesses we have in our relationship with the state is that you know, one of the problems with the state of California is that so much of our budget is constitutionally guaranteed, either by initiative or by you know, federal or court-ordered mandates. And we're part of the increasingly dwindling. It's about 20%. That gets whipsawed in boom and bust time. So, you know, Emma talked about the dramatic declines in the last 3 years, but if you look at the decade before, we didn't do very well. I mean, revenues were going up, but the state, the university was largely flat in terms of state funding.
Well, all that's right, and I wanted to add one other point. You know, our budget's around $20 billion. So you'd say, so the state is, you know, under the proposed budget from the governor, you know, that's, you know, $1.08 is coming from the state of California. But our problem is, all money is not green at the University of California. So we actually, so if you look at our hospitals, for example, they bring in more than $7 billion of revenue. But we have to take care of the patients we charge, otherwise they get very grumpy. And you have to, you know, keep the lights on in the hospital and hire the physicians, and it's an expensive operation. So you can't just take the money, however desirable it is, and shift it over to the sociology department in one of the campuses, even though that sociology department may be suffering. And the same thing's true of our research budget. You know, we have the Lawrence Berkeley Lab. We do roughly $4.5 billion in research every year. Most of it the Fed sponsored, but if we're doing alternative energy, or we're working on an artificial retina, or, you know, a number of other, you know, biofuels and so forth, you can't just divert money from those research projects and say, here's an need on the academic side of the house. So there's a great irony in all this. While the state is starving the core money that we need to operate the undergraduate program, the graduate program, and the like, our research efforts and our clinical endeavors are going gangbusters at the moment. I mean, you never know, but, you know, there's talk in Washington about reducing research, sponsored research at the federal level. You know, a small change in Medicare, or there's a change in the president's health package can mean big dollars to our health centers around here. But so it's a great irony. We're trying to figure out what is our first priority, which is the undergraduates, core curriculum, access to class, student services, financial aid. We're being starved at the core function of the university, while these other things comparatively are doing quite well.
I just think it seems pretty ironic that you're saying we can't take money from basically the sciences to funnel that are making money to put into social sciences, but the way that cuts are affecting campuses on social sciences and humanities, it seems that that's exactly what we're doing the other way around, that other programs are getting cut to preserve the funding of the sciences.
When you get a research grant for $1 million to study breast cancer, or
genetic research. You cannot take a research grant from the federal money, federal government. You can't even put it in the basic science department. You can't put it anywhere but in that research grant. You have to pay the researchers and the grad students. So you cannot transfer the $4.5 billion of research money to other needs in the university. And we have great difficulty. We do tax the medical centers, but they have their operating budgets, and we have to deliver the patient services. We get paid by insurance companies and Medicare and Medicaid, and basically, you know, it's almost a separate enterprise. So let's start there. I don't make decisions about the allocations on campus. I mean, that's really the chancellor's job. You know, we're sort of a federalist system. There's some decisions I get to make in the Board of Regents. And for example, a decision the board makes is only the board can vote to support the tax extenders. No one else has the authority to speak for the institution other than the board. But to answer your question, that is really a campus matter. Now, I've looked at that, and there are a lot of cross subsidies, and it's true on any campus that if you charge the same tuition to everybody, but engineering is a more expensive major, either because you pay engineering professors more, or you have laboratories or whatever, there are cross subsidies going on, but that's up to the campus. But there is no systematic policy anywhere taking money from the humanities or social sciences. And I should add, to me, where do I put this? I'm sort of a child of the humanities. I mean, I took the humanities, I was a social science major, and all the rest of that. What we do in the humanities and social sciences happens nowhere else in American society. Nowhere else. We have to support them. And I'm in favor of anything that would get more money to them. I just have to say that. I mean, you know, you can't go to IBM and do research on poetry, right? I mean, and Microsoft, as generous as Gates is, you know, is not teaching Spanish and you know, Russian literature and so forth. So, I mean, but there is one part of your message which is really right. If you look at the national situation, I mean, our largest amount of money comes from the National Institutes of Health. Well, there aren't too many humanists and social scientists, some, but not many, that will qualify for that money. Our next biggest slug of research money comes from the National Science Foundation. Same thing. And after that, it's Department of Energy, Department of Defense, Agriculture, and the like. So it is absolutely imperative that the University of California sustain the humanities and social sciences. There's no other place no other place in a university where we really teach about culture and where we teach about multiculturalism and we teach different languages. I mean, that's an enormous tragedy in this whole situation. And too many people think you need to learn just accounting or business. And I'm not saying they're unimportant, but the humanities and social sciences are equally as important, probably more important, because it's easier to learn accounting someplace than it is to pick up a course in anthropology or sociology or even economics. So.